few years ago, Government of India announced a very ambitious project called the Central Vista project. According to this project, the area around India Gate and the Parliament will be revamped to make way for a new Parliament which was recently inaugurated, and also to make way for Prime Minister's new residence, Vice President's new residence, various government offices, offices of various ministries in that region, which we know as Janpath Road and Uttarpad Road, which is the Vijay Chowk area, the north and south block in central Delhi. Now, in this Central Vista project, there were other subcategories also, subcategories of projects as well, which was launched by the Government of India. One of this project was to make a new, better, and a bigger national museum, which would be called as the Yug Yugin Bharat National Museum. Now, this National Museum is said to be located in the north and the south block at Raisina Hill, Vijay Chowk. And the antiquities, over 2 lakh antiquities from the present National Museum building, which is on Janpath Road, will be relocated and shifted to the new to its new residence. But the question here emerged, and many asked what would happen to the building of the National Museum. The answer is simple, according to the government, actually. The answer is that the building of National Museum, which houses rare antiquities from across the country and also the subcontinent, will be demolished, will be razed down to make way for a new Kartavya Path. Not only the National Museum building, but the buildings around it, such as the IGNCA, Vigyan Bhavan, Railway Bhavan, etc., to make way for the Central Vista project. Now, a lot of after this news was made public, a lot of heritage experts, conservators, archaeologists, historians came out to show their disagreement with the government. Many art historians have also published open letters in various newspapers asking the government to stop this very move. They don't want the National Museum building to be demolished. The reason is because they think one side of the theory, of course, the experts think that the National Museum building hold a lot of heritage importance. But on the other side, the government thinks the building of National Museum and various other buildings which were created post-independence in 1950s, 60s, 70s represent colonial ethos. And they are very Nehruvian in nature, so they don't need to exist. The government also gave another argument was that these buildings are becoming weak, such as the old parliament itself was becoming weak. It was very difficult for to make repairs in the old building, so it made sense to have a new structure which is not as weak as these buildings which were created post independence. Now, I have various, there are various pros and cons to this very move. But in this week's column, we will be looking at the history of National Museum, why National Museum is important, what it represents, and whether or not it is wise for government to raise or demolish the building of National Museum. Hello, my name is Disha Ahluwalia. I'm an archaeologist, and I write regular columns at ThePrint on archaeology and various aspects of archaeology. In this week's column, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be talking about National Museum, its significance, its history, and why it's important to save the building of National Museum. Now, if we look at the history of National Museum, the very conception of this building, which would house race, antiquities, and objects representing and celebrating India's past and cultural heritage, came about around 1900 BCE. The idea came about when the capital of imperial India, the colonial India under the British government, was shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. The government decided that they're going to have various museums in the area around Janpath. The museums would be dedicated to different themes, and one of the museum would be called the Imperial Museum, which would have the same concept as the National Museum, as our very National Museum today. The building and the various museum would be then constructed in Jaipur Road. The plot for Imperial Museum was actually the plot where Archaeological Survey of India had its office for many, many decades before it was shifted to 24 Tilak Marg a few years ago. Now, the building of Archaeological Survey of India also is uh, demolished, but the area next to that very spot was given to the National Museum when its construction began in early 1950s. Now, why in independent India the concept came about to have its own national museum is very interesting. There was a exhibition which was exhibition in Royal Academy London. This exhibition had various objects which were taken either from loan from various state governments, various princely states, or were taken as donation from private collectors, were rare antiquities which were exhibited in London. Thus, the exhibition was so successful and well received that the Rashtrapati, the president of India back then, decided that they're going to have the same exhibition housed at Rashtrapati Bhavan in 1948-49. When the exhibition was exhibited for a few years in the Barn Hall, this exhibit in the Barn Hall actually gave the idea for having its own building housing the similar collection, the very collection which is the pride of India. This exhibition was inaugurated in 1949, and the construction of the present building of National Museum began in 1950s. The first stage, the first building, the main building was finished, its construction was finished in 1960s, and then the second building went on to be built in 1989. The present building was, of course, inaugurated by the first Prime Minister of the country, by the Jawaharlal Nehru, and it was constructed and it was designed by the first chief architect of India, J.B. Deolkar, and was constructed by Bhagwat Singh. Now, the very concept of National Museum, yes, walked on the lines of the very idea of Imperial Museum, was yes pushed by the very idea of having the exhibition in Royal Academy, and then it was taken forward. In fact, the very curated list of objects was very similar, but this very building was constructed. The octagonal building was constructed in the independent India, was constructed by Indians for India. Now today, the government argues that it represents colonial ethos. Many do argue that it represents colonial ethos, but many also argue that instead of looking at a building from this perspective, why not just look at it from the perspective of representing a new India, an independent nation trying to come out of the colonial hangover. It is very evident that a lot of these architectural structures, a lot of these buildings would walk on the lines of many colonial buildings, the colonial idea, even the colonial themes. But it took many decades for that to go away and for new type of buildings, structures to come about. Now, those who argue that National Museum building actually represent colonial ethos have to remember that the new National Museum, which hopefully will be inaugurated in 2025, will be at the North and South Block, which again is represents Delhi is a marker of colonial past as well. So the government has taken initiative to retrofit and conserve that building and housed over 2 lakh antiquities in that building, and even to add more objects to that list of 2 lakh antiquities and to have state-of-the-art museum. I actually welcome this move because India is in desperate need to have a good museum with developed infrastructure, a very progressive museum which represent progressive India. And also, if you have a national museum which the government claim, the Central Vista project claim is going to be the biggest National Museum with over 950 rooms, which will be three-storied building. It's a very interesting move, and it'll be really nice to see a museum that big celebrating India. But the question is, why to demolish the building of National Museum, the present National Museum building? If we can repurpose the old parliament, if we can repurpose the north and south block buildings in Raisina Hill, why can't we repurpose, reuse the building of National Museum? I'm sure the building is not that weak, and I'm sure the conservation and the conservators of our country are very skilled to make do and correct the flaws in that very building. And I'm very sure that it can really accommodate offices, it can accommodate various other, for various other purposes. Why can't we do that? Because the buildings like National Museum don't come by, regularly. It took a lot of years for this building to actually complete. A lot of efforts was made by various Indians, be it the ones who are building. The building, the architects, and also those who managed the building for many, many years. Interestingly, there was also an institution at this very building called the National Museum Institution, which is now renamed as Indian Institute of Heritage. Again, a very welcoming move, and it is now going to be shifted to Greater Noida, to a very bigger campus, to a better equipped campus for conservation of antiquities, manuscripts, paintings, and also to house various other faculties, including the Department of Archaeology there, which is very, very wise decision made by the ministry, made by the government of India. But again, the decision of demolishing National Museum is hardly digested by many, many enthusiasts and those who sympathize with National Museum. And I am one of those people. I have grown up visiting National Museum as a resident of New Delhi. Every Sunday or every other Sunday, my father would take me to National Museum. And when, during school trips, every year we would visit National Museum. And when I ventured into archaeology, the trips became more and more frequent. So for me personally, the building of National Museum holds a lot of significance. Of course, it's a very personal thing, and I can't, of course, expect many in the government offices to make that very decision on a personal, affiliation, affection towards that building. But again, the reason why the government is demolishing the building is not clear, as echoed by many experts and many who have been writing constantly to the government, who have filed various PILs, various heritage organizations have also filed PIL in the court to stop a demolition of National Museum. We have various other buildings also that have been demolished, but National Museum is one of those very significant buildings. So if you are interested, do go read my column on National Museum and various other archaeological sites which are endangered. The link for the column will be in the description box below. And if you like such videos, do subscribe to ThePrint and also follow Print on various social media platforms. The link will be in the description box below. And if you are in Delhi or if you're visiting Delhi before March 2024, do visit National Museum once. It may be your last time visiting National Museum. Do bid adieu to the building which has celebrated India for over 6 decades, which has which has housed the rare antiquities of India, and which has been the pride of India for over 6 decades. Thank you, and hope to see you soon again.